Breathing the same air as an arrogant jerk every morning can ruin my whole day. That's exactly how it felt working with Manager Jones, who loved to remind everyone she was a graduate of a fancy university. She constantly belittled us, calling us uneducated and useless. One day, I'd had enough. When I confronted her, she smirked and said, "Why don't you report me to someone? I'm one of the elite. Nobody listens to a dropout like you." She looked so confident, as if she won. But then something unexpected happened. The company president overheard her. "Hi, I'm Daniel Smith. Right after high school, I started working at this company as a salesperson. My father had been hurt in a motorcycle accident and couldn't work anymore. So I stepped up to support my family. He had connections with the company, and that's how I got the job. Most of the time, I love working here. My boss is kind, and my co-workers are great. But today, I was feeling down." "Hey, Smith," one co-worker said, "isn't today the big meeting with headquarters?" "Yeah, it is," I replied, already dreading it. "Then she's coming, isn't she?" I should have called in sick. "Come on, you don't even deal with her directly," I said. Still, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. Soon enough, her voice echoed down the hallway. "Why is nobody here to greet me? How rude," Manager Jones barked, glaring at me when she arrived. "This place is full of incompetent people," she muttered as she strutted past. Manager Jones worked at the head office and came here regularly for meetings. She had been hired as an executive candidate because of her prestigious education, but she looked down on everyone at the subsidiary, constantly calling us uneducated and incapable. As usual, she didn't hide her disdain. "Let's start the meeting. The sooner I leave this place, the better." "Could you wait just a moment?" I said politely, trying to hold my frustration. Manager Jones was furious. "What? I have to wait? You should all be ready the second I arrive from headquarters. This is unacceptable. You're all completely useless." "I'm so sorry," I said, "but you arrived 20 minutes earlier than scheduled." She didn't care. Jones was from headquarters and considered an elite, so no one dared to stand up to her. At our subsidiary, we often complained about her, but we never actually opposed her. We just endured. One morning, on my way to work, I saw an elderly woman crouched in distress in the middle of the road. She looked like she was struggling, but everyone around ignored her, pretending not to notice. I couldn't do that. "Are you okay, ma'am?" I asked as I rushed over. She didn't answer. Her breathing was heavy, and she seemed unable to speak. "I'll call an ambulance right away," I said, dialing 921-1. When the paramedics arrived, I went with her to the hospital. The nurse later reassured me, "You can't go home now. We'll take care of her until her family arrives." Still, I stayed until her family showed up. Luckily, the woman was fine and only needed a few days in the hospital to recover. A few weeks later, I received unexpected news: a transfer order to the headquarters. It was a direct decision from the company president. I wasn't sure if I should accept, but my co-workers encouraged me. "This means your hard work is being recognized. Go for it." So, I decided to transfer. On my first day at headquarters, I made it a point to greet each department. While walking through the corridor, I spotted Manager Jones and hurried over to greet her. But the moment she saw me, she sneered. "What are you doing here?" she asked, clearly annoyed. "Aren't you a little out of place?" "Good morning, Chief. I've been assigned here," I replied. Her face twisted with irritation. "You've been transferred here. What on earth were they thinking?" I tried to stay polite. "I'm sorry if I..." "Stop talking," she interrupted, waving me away like I was an annoying fly. "Stay out of my way. I'm busy." There was no point continuing, so I left. Later, while passing by her floor, I overheard Manager Jones shouting at another employee. "This is a simple test. Even a new hire could do it. Why are you so useless?" she yelled. The employee, clearly upset, clenched his fists but said nothing. "If you can even do this, you're of no use to me. Clean out your desk and get out of here," she snapped. When she turned, she noticed me standing nearby. Her face twisted even more with anger. "What are you doing here?" she barked. "Didn't I tell you to stay out of my way this morning?" I didn't respond. I just stood there, silently watching her anger boil over. "Relax, Chief. I need to talk to you about something," I said. "Stop talking. Everyone here is useless and incompetent," the chief snapped before storming out and slamming the door. I turned to the employee who had just been yelled at. "Is that normal for her?" "She's like this every day," he replied, his voice heavy with frustration. "She constantly disrespects everyone." "Be careful," I said, trying to calm him down. "If she hears you, she might make things worse." But he was too upset. "I've had enough of this," he muttered, pulling a white envelope from his desk. "Is that a resignation letter?" I asked. "Yes," he said with a sigh. "I've been thinking about it for a while. I loved my old job. It was peaceful and fulfilling. But ever since the chief arrived, this place has become a nightmare." His desk was covered in neatly organized documents and notes. It was clear he took pride in his work. "I understand how you feel," I said gently. "But doesn't it frustrate you to let all your hard work go to waste because of one person?" "Of course it does," he admitted. "I've worked here longer than she has, and I've always given my best, but this is unbearable." "Then don't quit," I urged. "There are people here who trust and rely on you. Stay, at least for them. I'll handle the chief." "What do you mean?" he asked, surprised. I left him and went to confront the chief. I found her in the break room sipping tea. "Chief, may I have a word?" I asked. She rolled her eyes. You again? Can't you see I'm on a break? Leave me alone." Ignoring her irritation, I said firmly, "Chief, I will investigate your mistreatment of employees. Based on the findings, there may be consequences." She frowned, then laughed dismissively. "Oh, please. Do you think anyone will listen to someone like you? I'm an elite, supported by my superiors. You're just a nobody from a subsidiary." Just then, a man walked in. "Smith, how are things going?" It was the president of the company. "Hello, President. What a surprise to see you," the chief said, suddenly polite and cheerful. "I'm doing well, thank you. Have you met the new branch manager yet?" the president asked. "What? Who?" she asked, confused. The president gestured to me. "He's standing right in front of you. Didn't you get the memo?" The chief's smile vanished. A branch manager. You must be joking." "I'm not joking," the president replied coldly. "He's the new branch manager. Show some respect." The chief's face turned pale as she looked at me, stunned. The chief's face turned pale, and she looked like she was about to faint. The president, noticing her state, spoke calmly. "Let me explain something to you about this situation." He then shared his story. "This company originally belonged to my father. After he was injured in a car accident and couldn't work, I stepped in to take charge." The chief, still in shock, asked, "Wait, is he the former president's son?" "That's correct," the president replied. "I've been trying to convince him to come to the headquarters, but he's quite stubborn and preferred staying at a subsidiary. I just liked it there and was satisfied with my work," I explained. "So, what made you come here all of a sudden? Why didn't you just stay at the subsidiary?" the chief blurted out, forgetting her place in front of the president. The president, surprised by her tone, raised an eyebrow but answered, "I had a good reason. This man saved my mother's life." The chief looked confused. "Your mother?" "Yes," the president said. "A few weeks ago, my elderly mother collapsed, and this man was the only one who helped her. While others ignored her, he called an ambulance and stayed by her side until I arrived." The chief's jaw dropped as she listened. "I didn't want his efforts and kindness to go unnoticed," the president continued, "so I appointed him as the branch manager." He turned to me. "When I first offered you the position, I knew it was a big step up from your work at a subsidiary. But after hearing about your dedication from my father and others, I was confident you were the right choice." The president then addressed the chief sternly. "Going forward, you will respect him as your branch manager. Stop your disrespectful behavior and follow his lead." With that, the president left the room, leaving the chief stunned. I stepped forward and faced her. Chief, I've seen how you mistreat not just your subsidiaries, but also your direct subordinates. You've always mocked me for being less educated, but now I'm in this position. I can't let this behavior continue. The chief sank into her chair, tears streaming down her face. Her pride had been shattered. The person she had always looked down on was now her superior. The next day, a thorough investigation was conducted. After interviewing employees and subsidiaries, many reports of the chief's terrible behavior came to light. As a result, she was disciplined and left the company shortly after. Looking defeated and broken, her high self-esteem had taken a massive hit, and she left without a word of protest. Though the process was difficult, it marked the end of my challenging days. Are you sure you want me to replace the chief? I asked the president. He smiled. Yes, I trust you. With the chief fired, I recommended promoting the employee who had been mistreated by her. He had been with the company for many years, worked passionately, and had a solid record of performance. I was confident he would not repeat her mistakes. Having experienced the frustration and anger of her abuse, I knew he would be a leader who understood and cared for his team. As for me, I decided to manage the branch differently. I wanted to lead from the perspective of the employees, not just as a branch manager. Drawing from my experience at the subsidiary, I implemented several changes. I regularly interviewed employees to hear their opinions, held leadership training for higher-level staff, and worked hard to create an open, supportive environment. Gradually, the atmosphere of the company improved. It started to feel like the warm and cooperative place I had loved working at before. One day, the president called me to his office for coffee. Smith, I wanted to talk about the company. It's thriving, thanks to you. Oh, I'm just doing my best, I replied, a little embarrassed. The president leaned back in his chair. You know, I'm getting older. Eventually, I'd like you to succeed me. Surprised, I said, with all due respect, Mr. President, I don't see myself becoming president. What? Why not? Your father would have wanted this for you. I want to work closely with the employees, supporting the company from their perspective and staying connected to the customers. That's hard to do as president, isn't it? The president frowned at my words, then burst into laughter. You're a funny guy, Smith. Most people would jump at this offer. Am I eccentric? I asked, smiling. No, you're exactly the kind of person this company needs. He patted me on the shoulder, a little harder than expected. You've got a meeting soon, don't you? Go and keep up the great work, he said. And with that, I left the office, feeling more motivated than ever to help the company grow and succeed.